Hi, everybody. Steve Cady here with Josh Main, the GA for the class. And hey, Josh.
Hey Steve, how's it going?
Great. So we're going to take and do a online or a video best practice discussion or report and provide a best practice report for you all out there. We won't take very long, maybe 10 minutes. And we just want to highlight some of the things from the first module, the Start Here STA module. We're taking three different reports we thought do a nice. All the three teams did a nice job, and we wanted to highlight some of the things that they did really well. Maybe a couple tips as you think about your team report for FUN fundamentals, and then we'll wrap up. And so we're going to start with the team one, and then we'll go to the next team will be team. See here, we got. Let me make sure my screen is. I'm trying to get it to click back and forth, but it's not cooperating. Okay, there we go. It's going back and forth. So team one, team six, and then team two. So let's start, Josh. Let's jump in with this. And I'll just say right off the bat, in the module on the team report, I provide a overview here on doing the team report. And with it includes I did a podcast to help make it a little bit easier, so you can click and listen to that. And then I go through and provide the outline. And you can see that it's all right here. And I think it's important to follow this in terms of, one, having the proper header bolded, having an introductory paragraph, going into discussion questions, and bolding each question, and then providing your answer. And then you center the key sections, which is discussion questions, exam questions, additional team tasks, and conclusion, and you got your introduction at the top. So with that, if we look here, you can see the introduction is right here. They got the header as I specified. You can see that they've got the team leader and the team reporter specified who those two people are. They then go into the team members and talk and share the team members. They have the date, and then they go into their introduction. An introduction, like I've mentioned before, is a creative writing piece, if you will, that sets the stage for the document. And what I want you to do is make sure you use good writing and that you've learned to write an appropriate introduction. Then you got your first header discussion questions, and it jumps into question one. So we can see here with question one, we can see a few things. There's three questions here. Who am I? What is my major? And why do I choose to stay? And everybody answered this individually, and so the challenge for you all, or the task, is to discuss and find the themes as a team in what you all answered. And in the directions, it says find the common and unique themes. When you look here, scroll down, it says who am I, blah, blah, blah. It says a tip here, review the team members' posts, then as a team, summarize the themes. What was common in what you all posted for a question? What was unique to one or two people that you'd like to remember or you find important? So what was done here is a really nice job of summarizing. And what did you, and when we look at the criteria, let me also talk about the criteria with you all real quick. If you look in the criteria, you know that, let me see here, right here. Over here, you got complete, professional, and thoughtful. And as we go on the next one, we're going to give you specific feedback on complete, professional, and thoughtful, and your score. On this one, you got your score. You can see down in the assignment comments what you missed and why, and so forth. So that's the intention. Now, with that, with the first team here that we're looking at, which again is team one, and great job, everybody, and team one. Keep up the good work. You can see that they talked about commonalities and they went into depth and did a nice job. Josh, you want to talk a little bit about what you were looking for here so that this question was answered completely?
All right. Well, in this one, basically, when I first started grading these, is looking for basically what you said, looking for you to answer who am I, what is my major, and why did I choose to stay in this major. As you can see with this team, they had a nice introductory paragraph summarizing who they were as a team, their various backgrounds that were being blended together. And this was very common throughout all of the team summaries that were submitted. But what really set this apart and what really sent this as a home run is when they answered what was unique to one or two people. They actually took this a step further and tied it in with the module content, if you will. And that can be found in the second paragraph to their answer here. They started out, the reasons why people stayed in their major varied from having a passion to wanting to be creative, having leadership opportunities, etc. That's great. That's a generalized comment. But then they found an underlying, I guess, similarity or commonality, if you will, that was connecting all of them, all across these different majors. And that was that they all wanted to better themselves as individuals and be successful in their team and also in their future careers. And that's really the whole goal of the class. And to have this tied in with that, which was the learning material in in module STA, that's what really set this apart and made it a best practice, if you will, for question one.
Great. So then when we go down and see here that we're looking for complete, we're looking for professional, we're looking for thoughtful. So you can see the question is answered completely. It's also got, it's professionally written, and it's also thoughtful, and it's elaborated well. You come down
Right.
to my dream job, you can see here that they did a real nice job here. And what I think is really important is they did one thing that's going to be key to what you do on the fundamentals chapter, and that is you draw key terms and concepts from the module reading and resources and use them in the answer. And so here's a perfect example where Daniel Pink and his video was used to help tie in and answer and address the question for question number 2. That is what gets you full credit. And you're going to particularly need to make sure that as you solve each of the challenges in the fundamentals chapter, each challenge, it's very important that you use specific terms, restate them. You can even bold them. You could, for example, you could bold Daniel Pink video here and the title of it so that we know that this is where you're using specific terms and content to answer the question. I thought that was done really well with this question. Josh, what did you think?
I thought that was excellent. That was, honestly, if I remember correctly, one of the only examples where they referenced Daniel Pink. What I mean by that is throughout all the submissions. It really set them apart and tied in perfectly with this question, where my dream job in the next 2 years is, and why this matters. Because that Daniel Pink video, remember, that revolved around achieving your dreams, achieving that perfect career, and also the psychology, if you will, behind that human drive to do things that they're passionate about. And this tied in nice how they did this when, let's take a look here. When managers and professionals are happy, according to Daniel Pink, they'll work hard and make progress regardless of monetary rewards. So why does that matter? Well, if you continue reading, planning and dreaming of what is yet to happen helps us stay focused to obtain our goals, which will lead to happiness on the job and increased creativity for society's benefit. So this ties in with question 1 that they answered, where they all found that they want to better themselves as individuals and be successful in their individual careers. Now they're saying how they want to do that. And they're taking lessons learned from that Daniel Pink video and applying it.
Super.
It tells a story, and that's what we're looking for.
And I think that's a key thing is tell the story, summarize, give examples, and tie in content that you've been reading from the module directly to your answers. My ideal organization is, and 3 reasons why. I think the group did a nice job here. And one of the key things is make sure you're answering all the questions and sub-questions. Sometimes there's a hint or a tip, note, find the criteria, then rate your organization. I think they did a good job here. I think they identified an organization, Google, and they talked about it, and they alluded to the criteria. They didn't say it explicitly, and I think that could have been an improvement here. However, I think they did a super job of talking about what they all had in common, relating it to an organization inside the study, the best 100, and drew from those criteria in giving the example. And I'd like them to have just been more specific in stating this is the criteria that we found most important and why, or in connecting it. And then I would keep going here. So Josh, I'll keep moving. Unless, do you have anything you want to add?
No. One thing I did like, and this was a common theme among all submissions, well, for the most part, take this line. Google was a common top company everyone compared to. They were comparing their individual organizations, whether that be in the healthcare field or construction management field, etc., to Google, kind of as a benchmark. They were benchmarking there. And I just thought that was kind of a slick deal. If you didn't have your organization on this best 100, that doesn't mean that they're bad. But the fact that they were using benchmarking there, or like you said, alluding to the fact that they were using benchmarking, I thought that was a kind of a smart way to work into that question.
Yeah, I think so.
Anyway, we can go on.
Yeah, and then reactions to the course. They did a nice job of summarizing the themes, the reactions to the course, moving into that second part of the question in terms of what questions they have and what are their answers. They provided answers, and they provided the question, and they provided their team's answer. Great job. So they answered fully that question. And great college student here in class, and they talked about this, and I think they did a nice job of elaborating on the qualities, or just giving the themes for what makes for a great college student. I would like to have seen a little bit more here on how they compare to the criteria as a team. And while I think that they talked here, right, if you look here, they talked about it as a team, and I think that's good. So I think they reflect on teams interact. Everyone seems to be challenges of collaborating, being more organized, and asking for help, and so forth. So I think they alluded to those criteria, comparing themselves. I would just like a little bit more critique, saying, hey, we might want to work better on our organization skills or something along those lines. Just a little bit more of a critique. But otherwise, I thought it was addressed well. Exam questions, Josh, you really like this, I think, because these are super thoughtful, good questions that require some understanding and some thinking and draw on some key concepts, not nitpicky stuff. They did a nice job there. My thing is I want the questions to be multiple choice, multiple answer, true, false, matching, or some other type of. They can be. You could try a fill in the blank here and there. You just got to be. It's really hard to do. So I would like to not see very many of those. What are your thoughts, Josh?
Well, yeah, it's hard for the students to do in the long run, because Canvas has that ability to have fill in the blank, but lessons learned from last semester, we had some fill in the blanks, and students would capitalize or lowercase the word and say the proper answer was organized. They would capitalize the letter O, and for some reason Canvas wouldn't like that because it was keyed into the answer as lowercase o. So in the long run, it keeps things a lot simpler for the student, i.e. you guys that are listening out there, so that if you have multiple answers, drop downs, matching, it's a heck of a lot easier for you guys to get a grade on and have it graded fairly.
Right. And one thing I want to emphasize is we are taking these and creating exam questions for the midterm and final. So we will be pulling questions that you all create, and you will see them again. I think that's important. So additional
very important.
Yeah, and so on additional team tasks, the Hangout recorded on there, you are required to do this for every single module. So you should have the same thing. The questions are a little different when you look at the assignment. The team report, you go in and it'll give you what I'm looking for there. But describe your experience, what recommendations you have, and the Google Hangout on Air. And very nice. The Google Hangout on Air looks good. They did everything they were supposed to do. provided the link, and the link shows up right here. Here's what it looks like here, and it shows that they got together, and I can go in and see their team's work, and so forth. So,
and while we're on that Google Hangout URL, make sure you are testing those links before you provide them.
Right.
And if we have any issues with that, when you get these back, make sure that you address that. Let us know that, hey, that link should work. I know we had an issue here recently that we got taken care of.
But if the link does not work, the thing here that I think is important, it's expected you do a Google Hangout and you do it on air. That's the expectation. Second, it's recorded, automatically uploads to YouTube. I expect to see the link to the YouTube on-air session. Third, if the link does not work, that's your responsibility to make sure it works. So you need to click it and check it and provide the link in a way that it can be clicked on in the PDF and it can work. And if it doesn't, we'll just have to grade you according to it not working. So you have control over fixing it and ensuring the link works. And if you don't, that's a responsibility of yours. And I want to emphasize that we've been lenient on that, but I think it's a reasonable expectation that you can provide a link and just double check it to make sure that it works. If there is a technical issue on one end or another that's verifiable, that's a different story. But essentially, you can do that. And then the conclusion is just like good writing. You provide a conclusion, use your skills for writing conclusions that you've already learned, and create a conclusion. Josh, any thoughts as we wrap up?
Yeah, what I really am looking for in the conclusion, well, I guess what we both are looking for in that conclusion, is you're looking back on what your team accomplished in this team summary. Some of them you're critical of yourself. That's great. That's another thing to look for, is when you're looking for things that you could have done better as a team. And also when you look back and say, hey, we did this really well. It's basically concluding thoughts. What are you taking away from this current module that you're going to be thinking about as you head into the next? Because the way this class works is it builds on one another. Dr. Katie's done a really good job of that. And if you have that in your conclusion and also in your mind going forward, you're going to get a lot more out of this class than if you just put one or two sentences there. Really use this conclusion not only for a grade, but also for your benefit as a way to look back over this work that you've done. That's it in a nutshell, I guess.
Yeah, which includes a good introduction, which they did a nice job of. So let's look at the next Team 6. So Team 6, they answered the questions. They did a complete job. They answered the questions and sub-questions. It's professional, nicely laid out. You can see here. You got exam questions, you got additional tasks, and they've got all that, and the link works, and they actually put the raw link in if I had to retype it, but they put that in. They actually did a nice job of saying, hey, at 14:08, you'll see how we discussed the questions and summarized, and they did their conclusion. So what are some highlights here of things that you liked, and maybe a couple things that you'd suggest to students that this team wants to do, you'd suggest to them to do differently next time?
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. We'll start with the improvement side, and then we'll finish on the positive side. Some things to improve. First of all, let's examine question 1. They give a nice introductory paragraph there, much like what Team 1 did in our previous example. They really summarize up each of the group members. But that's just it. They're given a view from 40,000 feet. They're not really lasering in on something that stood out or how they arrived at that summary like Team 1 did, which if you look in the assignment, that was one of the requirements. What was unique to one or two people that you felt was important? They didn't even make a common theme like Team 1 did. It was still good. Don't get me wrong. They still got a good grade on it. But it was just, there was room for improvement. This was also further showcased on question 3. Again, it just says all of us listed organizations that pertain to our areas of interest, which we're all different, seeing as our interests are all different. Great. But that doesn't tell me a lot. It sounds like you have a diverse team, which is awesome. That you can draw a lot of experience from, but it doesn't really, again, laser in on any areas of interest.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, and the other thing I want to emphasize, again, this team did a nice job, and so
yeah.
And we'll talk about that. You said you'll wrap up on some of the strengths. So
there's plenty of strengths in here.
Yeah, and so and I get that, and so but I want to definitely focus right here, like you're saying, on some areas for improvement. I'm still looking for concepts from the reading, from the modules, the resources provided to be used in the answer to your question. And in here, it's looking for criteria, and I was looking for explicit mentioning of criteria and so forth. And so I think that's important. Making sure you're weaving those things in, like the Daniel Pink or whatever it is, and particularly in the fundamentals chapter, you've got 3 challenges. It's important for you to go to challenge 1, go into the reading for that, and use the content to help you diagnose, intervene, evaluate, and transfer on that one. Then do the same thing on the next challenge B and the next challenge C. I want to see terminology used. And it's not a bad idea, if you want, to bold some of the terms just to trigger us and say, this is where I'm using, this is the term I'm using that helped me to diagnose the situation. In this case, since this was introductory to the class, it was more about the class materials, the setup materials, the syllabus. And so I wanted to see and reference whatever we refer to or whatever it's getting at to use some of the content. So keep going, Josh.
All right. Those were the 2 darkest areas, I guess you will, of this. Like I said, they did an excellent job. So let's get into some of the milder stuff, the more positive stuff, I guess you will. On question 2, I have underlined their version of the Daniel Pink video. They didn't explicitly, call anything out from the introductory material found in STA, but they had a nice line here. We have an applied health science major, and she plans to work towards becoming a physical therapist, so she can help relieve people's pain and discomfort. So that kind of lasered in on one particular group member, something that this group found was unique to their team. And they felt showcased what this person's dream job was and why it matters to her to have this dream job.
Gotcha. Great.
And they list another example. Now, granted, they don't grab anything from that the content, and again, this is why it's a step down from a perfect score, but it still is on the right track and is still a very good, solid answer to number 2.
Gotcha. Great. And then as we go down, I'm just going to screw down to the exam questions. Any comments about the exam questions?
The exam questions were nice. They're in the format we're looking for. You see a multiple choice there. You see a true, false. And also you see one of those fill in the blanks.
And if they want to do a fill in the blank, I think that's okay. So I want you all to know you can do at least one fill in the blank if you want. I'd like other types, multiple choice, multiple answer, matching, true, false kinds of questions as well. And make them thoughtful and not just rote. Rote meaning just simple or even questions that a person could answer without even reading the material. It should address the content and really help assess are they beginning to understand the material at a deeper level.
Yeah. And these,
what's that?
I mean, you couldn't just go through and guess. I guess you could argue true and false. You could. The final for Management 3050 is a comprehensive exam over all 8 modules. You could guess at that one.
You could guess, but
number 1,
you'd have to know that. That's actually, I think it's a good question because a lot of students ask that question a lot, and it's always answered in the syllabus. So this is the kind of question that just really getting at: are they aware of the material and are they remembering some key points? So I think for this, I think it's okay.
Okay.
And then anything else, Josh?
No, on those that look good. So
Yeah,
as
and I
long
think
as
they
you
did a nice job
that's
here
right.
on the hangout piece and discussed that, and they introduced it, talked about the three questions, and did nice, and then the conclusion. Any comments on that?
No, it was very well put together. I did like how they had the YouTube link right there, as opposed to as you did see on the last one, Team One, they had Google Hangout on air as a hyperlink. Um, just in case the link fails, you can copy and paste it or type it in
Right.
when it
However,
glitches out like that.
what I'll say, Josh, is that's okay. Some of them know how to do PDFs really well and make hyperlinks active in them.
Yeah,
And that's fine. As long as they do that, that's cool.
as long as it works. As
I
long as
just
it
expect
works.
it to work. Right. So
That's the big one.
let's move to the next one and let's get cruising. We'll wrap up. And
Yep.
so again, formatting is done super well. Questions are being answered, and they go through and they answer the questions, restate them. It's nicely and just nicely laid out. There's a couple like a formatting issue here, and so forth. But otherwise, they lay stuff out and so forth. And so when you look at complete, do they answer all the questions? I think there's some place where they could answer the sub questions maybe, but overall, I think they answered the questions, and it was professional. It's written well and laid out well and formatted properly. And then last piece is thoughtful in terms of elaborating and providing, and that might be an area in the thoughtfulness where they could have done a little bit more. So, what are your thoughts? And so, a couple key points, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up.
Yeah, I would definitely say where this one fell short was in that thoughtfulness in particular, and that's where you as a team have the most freedom to really expand on the topics and questions that are being presented. That's where you can customize them in your own way and tie it into that material. And here, particularly, I'm looking at my printout and all the grading notes. It really lacked tie-ins to the content, and also just lacked some detail. Going into some details of what about the question? Who am I? What is my major?
So, but I think you're getting at the details. Gets at specific examples, specific points, not avoid generalities,
Oh,
and make sure you're
yeah,
bringing in key terms and concepts into your answer. I'll keep just beating on that because I think that's so important to getting full credit. Anything
exactly.
anything else you'd like to wrap up? What did you overall like about this?
Well, for good, let's find one here. There's several good points in this one. I like their conclusion, honestly, where it says, going into this team summary, we were extremely overwhelmed. Again, it starts to tell a story. It says, here we were facing this adversity. Here's how we overcame it. Going forward, here's what we're going to do differently to make things even better and flow better next time. That's really what that conclusion, from what Dr. Katie's told me anyway, is what that's there for.
And the conclusion is really addressing the
wrap up.
topic. And the conclusion is addressing the topic of this module, which is about getting off to a good start. The conclusion for fundamentals is going to focus on the learning for that module, and maybe some issues around keeping and improving as a team. But I think it's also reflecting on the learning from that module and the content around fundamentals of management, and how the challenges were solved to complete the mission related to the content and those kinds of things, and the general summary of their experience that they had in doing that and reflections on that, as well as reflections on themselves as a team.
Exactly, and that's what I liked with this one, is it really showcased just what you said, in reference to the STA summary.
Great. Well, Josh,
that was a high point.
Yeah, and thank you for your time, Josh. So Josh and I tag team. We go back and forth. We talk at length about the responses, the criteria, how they're applied. We painstakingly go back and forth. We both care to give you feedback to make sure you know why you got what you want. If you're not sure why you got the grade that you got, or you want more feedback, all you have to do is ask. We can set up a Google Hangout or just a phone call with you or multiple members of the team, walk through, give you additional feedback. You can post a question in the Canvas inbox, and maybe we can reply and answer in there, in text as opposed to live. But we're happy to also talk live. So I'd say with that, again, thank you all so much for doing good work in your teams. Really impressed. Josh, thanks for being a part of the team and helping with the class. It's a big class, so we got a lot of people to work with. And I wish you all well on the next module. We look forward to seeing your work. Josh, any closing thoughts or comments?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway, if you're sitting there now in the team that say didn't meet your goal with a grade, don't be down on yourself. Come away with a lot of lessons learned, and give it your best on the next one. We have a long semester ahead of us, so there's plenty more opportunities for redemption. And remember, Dr. Katie and myself, we all want to see you do well. We want to give you a 3 on that. So keep your head up and put forth some good effort. We believe in you.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're having team issues or whatever, just the other thing is if you got 2 or 3 or 4 of you that are working real well, be the core team, get it done. If you need to split off and be your own team of high performers, you can do that. You just let me know. If you got one person that's not showing up, not contributing, they'll get graded appropriately. Give them a evaluation on your peer reviews. Let them know, and you might give them a chance through the first peer review. If they don't quite come up to speed, you can always have them removed. They'll go to a team of their own, or there's a separate team for people who leave a team or fired from a team. And or if you split off as a high-performing team, you can do that. If you merge with someone else, that's also possible. So there's lots of opportunities and possibilities for you. So with that, we're done. Josh, again, thank you so much for your time. And everybody out there, remember, you can always ask for help. Just let us know, and we're right there for you individually or collectively. So bye for now. Have a great rest of the day.